What would you do if you found a girl behind your barn at sunrise holding a Colt? 45 like it was the only thing keeping her alive. The sun had barely risen over the Montana hills when Lawson spotted her crouched behind his barn. She was covered in trail dust, her lip cracked with dried blood, and both hands shaking around a Colt 45. For a moment, he thought she might pull the trigger out of pure fear. He lifted his rifle slow and calm. "You planning to shoot?" he asked, "or just holding that thing for comfort?" The girl looked up. Her eyes were wild, scared but clear in a way that made him pause. She lowered the gun with a heavy breath. "I ain't here to steal," she said. Her voice was thin and dry as old wood. "I just needed a place to breathe." Lawson studied her boots too big, her coat torn at the elbow, and a burn on her wrist shaped like a cattle brand. But her eyes told him more than anything else. Someone had chased her hard. "You got a name?" he asked. "Dela Orvin." He lowered his rifle. "You hungry, Dela?" Quote. She nodded, quick but proud, like she didn't want to admit it. "Well then," he said, tilting his head toward the house, "come on." Lawson's ranch sat 9 miles south of Helena, tucked between dry grass hills and the start of the timberline. It was a quiet place, peaceful, until this girl showed up with a thief's brand she didn't deserve. Inside the house, the kitchen smelled like last night's beans. Lawson handed her a plate without asking anything. She ate fast, like she hadn't seen a full meal in days. When she finished, she looked straight at him. "I didn't steal that horse," she said, "or the money, but someone had to be blamed when the foreman's son went missing." Lawson leaned back, studying her face. "You running from someone?" "Sheriff from Fort Benton," she said, "and anyone else he lied to." "You got family?" he asked. "None that want me back." Lawson rubbed his brow. He had cattle to move and fences to fix. The last thing he needed was trouble. But something about her stuck with him. The way she held that pistol. The way she had not lied, not once, not in her eyes. "I don't take in runaways," he said, careful. Dela stood fast. "Then I'll be on my way." "I didn't say I was sending you off," he said quietly. She froze, confused. "You shoot?" "I can aim," she said, not well. "Then you'll learn," he said. "I'll teach you." She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" Lawson hesitated. "Because I know what it feels like to be blamed for something you didn't do," he said. "And because you look like you're about to get yourself killed out there." Dela didn't answer, but she sat back down. That told him enough. Lawson had always figured he'd marry young, raise sons, and live steady. But his wife died of fever 3 winters ago, and the boys he hoped for stayed only dreams. The first 3 nights, Dela slept in the barn. She wouldn't step inside the house no matter how cold it got. Lawson didn't push her. He left a blanket and food each night. On the 4th night, she stood in the doorway, hat in her hands. "I won't stay long," she said. "You stay," Lawson said, "until you can defend yourself. As long as that takes." Quote. They trained behind the barn. Lawson lined bottles on fence posts. Dela missed every shot the first day. She cursed under her breath, but she didn't quit. By the 3rd day, she hit 2. By the end of the week, she was faster than he expected. "You keep this up," Lawson said. "You'll shoot straighter than any son I never had." She looked at him soft for a moment, like she hadn't heard words like that in years. "You ever want one?" she asked. "A son," he said. "I did." They didn't speak after that, but something changed between them. She began helping around the ranch, feeding the horses, fixing the wire fence, checking the traps. She moved with the skill of someone who'd worked hard her whole life, but never had a place to rest. One morning, Lawson found her sitting on the porch with his old rifle across her knees. "I used to be good," she said in a quiet voice. "Had a job washing dishes in Fort Benton, saved up for a saddle. Then that boy went missing, and folks said it had to be me. 3 days later, they found him drunk in the next town, but the sheriff had already branded me." Lawson sat beside her. "You're not a thief, Dela." She blinked. "You sound sure." "Because I see you," Lawson said. "You're honest. You're strong. You just needed someone to believe it." She looked at him long, her jaw trembling. "You keep saying things like that," she whispered, "and I might start to believe them." He reached out and touched her hand. She didn't flinch. That night, without a word, she moved into the house, set her bag by the door, took her plate at the table, as if she belonged. And Lawson didn't question it. A few weeks later, a rider came down the trail. Lawson saw the dust long before the man reached the gate. He stepped outside with his rifle. The sheriff from Fort Benton climbed off his horse. "I'm looking for Dela Orvin," he said. "She's wanted." Lawson kept his voice steady. "She ain't here." "You sure about that?" the sheriff asked. "You just turn your horse around," Lawson said. "No one here by that name." The sheriff narrowed his eyes. "You're harboring a criminal. I'll be back with men." Quote, "You do that," Lawson said, "but bring a coffin too." The sheriff left in a hard ride. Inside, Dela stood staring out the window, hands shaking. "You didn't have to lie," she said. "I didn't lie," he told her. "You aren't the girl he's looking for anymore." She stepped closer. "Because of you?" He shook his head. "Because you let yourself grow." She reached up and touched his face. "Lawson," she whispered. "Yeah, I think I'm falling for you." He smiled, slow. "Then we're in the same trouble." And right there on the porch, with the wind picking up and the sky burning gold, she kissed him. They didn't run anymore. They didn't hide. For the first time in a long time, Lawson felt like maybe he had a future again. The morning after the sheriff rode off, the creek behind the north pasture was swollen from the melt. Dela stood knee-deep in the cold water, trousers rolled high, boots left on the bank. She held a pail in one hand, her hem in the other. Lawson watched from the fence line, arms crossed, hat shading his eyes. "You trying to catch fish with that pail?" he called. "Or baptize it?" Quote, "Water tastes better when you get it yourself," she answered, steady and dry. "Not sure you'd know that, seeing as you send me out here every morning." "I recall asking you once," Lawson said. "You never stopped." She poured the cold creek water into the barrel by the shed. Her fingers were pink from the chill. Lawson noticed the way she flexed them afterward. "Snow'll be back in 2 months," he said. "Creek'll freeze sooner. You'll need gloves." "I had a pair once," she murmured. "Left them behind." He didn't push her to say more. They walked back together, the wind tugging at her braid, his coat brushing hers in small moments that felt more like comfort than chance. Inside, the kettle hissed on the stove. Lawson poured 2 cups of coffee. They sat at the table, pretending not to notice the quiet settling warm between them. "You ever think of leaving?" she asked. "No," he said. "Left once when I was 20. Made it as far as Nebraska before I missed the wind in the pines." Quote, "I used to think the further I ran, the better I'd be," Dela said. "But every time I ran, I felt smaller." "You stopped running," Lawson said. She met his eyes. "Not sure I did. Maybe I just ran into something I didn't want to leave." His throat tightened. "Tell me what you need, Dela." "I need to stop waking up thinking someone's coming to drag me back," she said. "I need to believe I'm more than what they claimed." "You are." She looked down. "I want folks to see me as a woman, not a warning." "They will," he said. "Not because they change. Because you did." Her eyes softened, something warm building inside her chest. That afternoon, they rode out to check the west boundary. The fence posts were loose from snowmelt, and one steer had wandered near the trees. Dela guided it back with a switch, her horse moving under her like it trusted her fully. "You ever break a horse?" Lawson asked. "No," she said. "But I've been thrown by one. That count twice?" She laughed, soft, real, and it stirred something deep in him. They reached the barn at dusk. Lawson replaced a warped rail. Dela held nails in her palm, passing them one by one. "You think the sheriff will come back?" she asked. "If he does, he won't find what he's looking for." She stared at the road beyond the gate. "I don't want you in trouble." "I've been in worse for less reason," he said. "You're not trouble." She stepped closer. "You keep saying things like that. I might start acting like I'm worth something." "You are worth something." She didn't move away. That night, she lit the lantern before he could, set the table, ladled soup into bowls. Halfway through the meal, she said, "There's a church social in town this weekend." Lawson raised a brow. "You planning to go?" Quote, Only if you'd walk in with me." He didn't answer right away. "If I walk in," he finally said, "I won't walk out alone." She looked startled, then nodded slowly. The next day they rode into town together. Dela sat straight in the saddle, hat low, breath tight. But no one pointed. No one whispered. A few nodded at Lawson. Some glanced at her and looked away again, unsure, but not unkind. Inside the mercantile, she bought a half-yard of canvas. The shopkeeper didn't ask questions. When they stepped back outside, people were gathering for the social. A fiddler tuned his strings. Children chased each other through the dust. "You all right?" Lawson asked. "Feels strange standing still." "That'll pass," he said. They rode back before sunset, stopping only once to breathe in the quiet of the hills. That night, she sewed by lamplight, counting stitches. Lawson watched her, hands folded. "You always mend things yourself?" he asked. "If I can." "You ever think about making something new?" She paused. "Like what?" "Blanket, shirt, dress." She thought on that. "Never stayed anywhere long enough to need one." "You're staying now." She set the cloth aside and walked toward him. "I don't know what to do with comfort," she said. "Feels like a trap sometimes." "It's not," he said. "It's waiting." "For what?" "For you to trust it." She touched his arm. "I trust you." Quote. He stepped close enough for her to tilt her head up. "You don't have to earn your place here," he said. "You already have it." She breathed out slow, something easing in her chest. "I used to dream someone might say that." "It's true," he said. She kissed him again, slower, sure. When the fire burned low, she rested her head on his shoulder, fingers curled around his shirt. "I want to build something here," she whispered, "not just stay." "We will," he said, bit by bit. The moon rose high, the house warm around them, the ranch quiet. For the first time in years, Dela felt safe enough to sleep without her boots near the door. And neither of them knew it yet, but the next step she took would change everything. The next morning, Dela woke before sunrise. The house was quiet, except for Lawson's steady breathing. She washed her hands at the basin and stared out the window. Mist hung low over the fields, soft and gray. A fox trotted along the tree line, its tail brushing the dawn. Behind her, Lawson shifted on the bed. "You always wake up this early?" he said, voice rough with sleep. "Only when something's on my mind," she said, still looking outside. "What is it?" Quote. She hesitated. "There's a man in Fort Benton, worked the quartermaster's stable. Name's Barrick. He saw everything that happened. He knew I didn't steal a thing, but he kept quiet." Lawson sat up, studying her. "Why bring him up now?" "Because I don't want to hide from a lie the rest of my life," she said. "I want it buried proper." He stood, crossed to her, and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You want to ride back?" She nodded, not for revenge. Just to hear the truth from the one man who saw it. By noon they were saddled and riding east. The trail curved along the river basin, the wind sharper the farther they went. Dela kept her gaze ahead, jaws set. Lawson rode beside her without a word. He knew better than to push. They camped that night near the Marias River. Dela built the fire with quick, practiced hands. Sparks rose into the cold air. "You think someone like Barrick ever thinks about what he left behind?" she asked. Lawson stirred beans in the pan. "Some do, most don't. They figure if it don't cut them, it ain't theirs to carry." "He used to be kind," she whispered. "Gave me gloves once. Then the day things turned, he wouldn't even look at me." "What will you say if he's still there?" Lawson asked. "I don't know yet." They slept under the stars, the crackle of the fire breathing through the night. By the next afternoon they reached Fort Benton. Wagons crowded the streets. A steamboat unloaded crates on the river. Dela kept her hat low, her breath tight. They found Barrick behind the old quartermaster's post, pitchfork in hand, his hair thinner than she remembered. He turned and froze. "You're her," he said. "I am." "You shouldn't be here." "I'm not here for trouble," she said. "I'm here for the truth." He swallowed hard. You want me to say I lied? No, she said calmly. I want to know why you didn't speak up. Barrick looked down at his boots. Sheriff's boy, his uncle ran the freight line. They could have ruined me. I had kids to feed. So you let them ruin me instead? She asked. He flinched. I think about it more than you know. She stepped closer. You have daughters, Barrick? His eyes snapped up. 2. Then pray no one ever does to them what you let happen to me. Barrick's mouth trembled, grief settling in his face. For the first time, she saw guilt that wasn't painted on by others but carved into him for years. She nodded and walked back to Lawson. They rode out before the sun dipped. The trail felt easier now. Did it help? Lawson asked. It didn't fix anything, she said, but it settled something. 2 days later, the ranch came into view. The air carried the first touch of autumn. Dela unpacked slowly, her movements thoughtful, careful. That evening, Lawson took out an old ledger. If we're going to build something, we should put it down, he said. Names, stock, boundaries. He tapped the page. And yours next to mine. Her voice dropped soft. You mean that? I wouldn't say it if I didn't. Then write it, she whispered, and he did. The first frost arrived early that year. Dela stepped outside one morning, shawl tight around her shoulders. The land was quiet, silver with ice. She turned to Lawson, who stepped out behind her. I want to file a land claim, she said. He didn't look surprised. You've been thinking on it since we came back. You said this place has my name on it. I want that to be true on paper. There's a parcel east of the ridge, he said. My father's old range. Been empty near 10 years. Would you let it go? Quote, I'd rather give it. They rode there that afternoon. The land sloped gentle toward the cottonwoods. Enough room for a cabin, enough room for a life. This is the spot, she said. You sure? Quote, I'm sure. The next week, they worked side by side, splitting timber, marking corners, hauling stone. At night, their hands raw and backs aching, they returned to the house, shared a meal, and let the quiet between them feel full, not empty. One evening, Lawson leaned on the doorframe as she stirred stew. You ever think about marriage? She didn't flinch. I have. And if I ever did it again, it'd be because I trust the man enough to build something that outlives us both. Quote, Lawson stepped forward, set a small wrapped bundle on the table. My mother's ring, he said. She unwrapped it slow. A simple silver band, worn smooth by years of love. You're sure? Quote, I've been sure since you came into my life with that pistol and those wild eyes. She looked up. Then yes. They married in November under the cottonwoods. No lace, no music, just vows spoken with full hearts. After that, their days settled into rhythm. Her cabin rose, beam by beam. She grew a garden. He built her a cedar chest. Word from Fort Benton came that the truth was finally out. Her name was clear. Spring arrived. The snow melted. Dela stood on her porch and watched Lawson ride up the hill. He dismounted, took her hand, and kissed her palm. Garden's ready, she said. So are we, he answered. They planted together, shoulders brushing. She laughed when the goats chewed the edge of her skirt. He carved a bench for the porch. Years passed. The land remembered them. The cabin stood strong. Their love grew steady and rooted. One warm summer evening, Dela walked barefoot through the grass toward the ridge. Lawson waited there, hands calloused, eyes kind. You ever wish things had gone different? She asked. Not once, he said. Not since you. She kissed him slow, the sky turning gold over them. And she knew she had built a life here, one that had built her back.